and I have some biases that I want to be honest about up front. I struggle to go all in or to be very bullish on layer twos in general. Um, but I am bullish on a lot of the stuff or themes or keywords I see here. And yeah, that's really it. My bias is I struggle to really get conviction on layer twos, primarily because I feel like their use cases are too specific. I'm more of a generalist. I bet on movements, not specific horses, if you will, or specific assets that don't have a broader range of utility. Mainly because I feel like it's too difficult to guess their largest customers and how it will actually generate value accumulation. I just feel like it's very difficult. The biggest winner in all of it is Ethereum. The more layer twos, the more settlements that occur on Ethereum, all in ERC20 token standard, they get their fees. Ethereum gets its fees specifically. And whichever layer 2 developers choose to use, that's a tough one. There's going to be millions of them before we're done, and it just is hard to isolate. But either way, bias aside, I'm going to give you everything I can over here. So let's get right to it. There's a lot. I want to keep this brief. And Kanto, again, I appreciate you for engaging in the community and giving me something to read about. I was very intrigued by everything. So let's pop on over here. So the first thing, guys, is going to be, and I make content explaining this stuff. It's going to be this. ZK means zero knowledge. It is I've been talking about it over a year now. It's probably the latest cryptographic invention. I, I don't really know how to describe it other than it's just a cryptographic method, okay? And it's dramatically better than not using ZK from compression, from throughput. It is just the wave of the future, and it's great that they are forward thinking to include ZK. EVM means Ethereum Virtual Machine. That means it is they are claiming it is compatible, and we'll get into that. It is compatible with um, Ethereum's virtual machine, and that would mean that other people that have EVM compatible products could port over to Manta very quickly and easily. If I build my stuff on the Ethereum layer 1, I could very easily deploy it on Manta Pacific. And um, it all sounds really good. I like the modular approach with Celestia here. You can see here they have two different deployments as well, which I thought was very interesting. They have this Manta layer 1 on top of Polkadot, and then they use Celestia and Ethereum for DA for their layer 2, and the optimistic roll up concept, and actually borrowing the CDK chain development kit from Polygon. So this Pacific layer 2 is amalgamation of a lot of different technologies that is interesting to see. That's kind of why my investment thesis is in infra. You know, there's smarter people than me out here building, and it's impressive that the team can organize the tech in this way. Overall, it sounds like it is built for the newest wave this bull run. It has all the keywords, it has all the buzzwords, it has all of the approaches that you would want, and it's a modular blockchain, which, there's not many great modular blockchains out there for you to expose your portfolio to. The, and we'll get into all this, but this is Layer 2 Beat. It is basically a site that gives you data on Layer 2s. So they don't have a great rating, um, according to L2Beat, and this is a source I trust. Obviously, I'm just presenting this information and giving you my opinion. That's what was requested by Encanto. So when I come here and I look at value lock, these are great numbers. This must be right when mainnet launched for Pacific, I would think. Yeah, Pacific here. And that's the layer 2, remember, guys. And that's what layer 2 beat does. TPS is staying on track in terms of the patterns between the spikes in the project and Ethereum for the most part. Might be some divergence here. Divergence on layer twos would suggest that they prefer, like, even if Ethereum's going down, people really like building it. So having an inverse relationship between the two is good. They don't really have that here, which is not the end of the world, but just something to be mindful of. Then we start getting into how far along they are in development, and there's a lot of red flags going off. Well, I guess orange flags to layer two beat, but they are still pretty centralized. And you're putting a lot of risk in not risk. You're putting a lot of faith into Manta essentially, and you're putting a lot of faith into the team. They don't have any external way of protecting your funds or validating transactions, so it's going to go through the sequencer, and if it doesn't work, it is what it is. MAV is not going to be regulated at the moment. And, a lot of this sounds scary, and having this all popped off, it's definitely something to be mindful of, but this also just could be a reflection of how early they are in their development, right? They didn't check every box, which is okay. This is the general architecture, which I appreciated them kind of showing you guys. So you can see here that you got three real people here, or I guess three items you should be mindful of. Ultimately, it's relatively standard. There's nothing, and this is I haven't looked at this since yesterday here. There's nothing that I see that doesn't make sense. These guys are very smart. The team claims they're from Harvard, MIT, and everything else. This seems to be the standard way that most layer twos are performing. Surprised that they stuck to that decision, the way they're packaged together. Sorry, I was reading something here. This is how the roll up works. Optimism portal here, right? They have their bridges. You would just submit all of your transactions through that portal, and then they have their sequencer and their proposer doing what it does to make sure that all of the transactions reach consensus, then would eventually be batched and submitted to Ethereum for settlement. It is pretty standard. This one is important to know though. Out of all these things, this means that a smart contract, uh, there could be some code put in place. There's a back door. Essentially, they are susceptible to someone potentially doing something. According to Layer 2B, this is not me. I'm not in the code. I don't know. I'm not on the team. This is just they throw this signal up here if they see issues with some smart contracts is mainly the thing. That is what Layer 2B does. So just be mindful here. Do 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 do. Yeah, so I thought this was kind of interesting. Having a layer one on Polkadot. The main thing that makes me kind of curious, I'm sure they started on Polkadot, right? And part of the thesis that I have that I talk about on this channel is most layer ones will eventually become layer twos, just because Ethereum probably has the most financial security, and decentralized randomness for actual cybersecurity, and a lot of other things. Like Ethereum's doing great, and it's not hard to just become a layer two and settle everything. Basically, you're choosing where you settle your transactions. You can settle it on Ethereum, or you can settle it through your own methods or on Polkadot. And it makes a lot of sense. The only thing that is curious to me that I wasn't really able to find in the time that I gave this project was how Manta the token, and this is why I'm not a big fan of layer twos, how Manta the token essentially is monetized across both environments, and how that ultimately distills to the token holders. That was a question I had. Um, this is good signs in the GitHub. Okay, 800 followers is realistic, so that's good, and they actually have some pretty active repos here. I did not go into each one, but it does look like the layer 1 and layer 2 repos are active, which is great. However, when I go into the main repo, they I find it interesting that it's built in Rust. Um, and this is the main repo, and the most recent commit roughly is, you know, a month ago. And being 97.5% Rust is a concern because that is the Solana coding language, and nowhere on their website do they talk about their interactions with Solana or anything else. Um, and they say they're an EVM, which should be, and I'll Google it for you, should be Solidity, and it is not. So that was a little weird. I don't really. I'm sure there's an explanation that I may not have, but I thought that was weird. And then you can see that they're kind of crushing their coding from where it did. This is the some of the branches I found that were more active. So repos might not have a big move every month, which is fine, but the branches were active. So all is good there from that perspective. Still a little weird that it's written in Rust here. And then I thought I tried to find what their unique value proposition was, and this is what they are claiming to be. So this right here, their universal circuits is a specific thing that they had coded and built that should give them a leg up. It is their value proposition. None of this matters to anyone other than developers and like where entrepreneurs decide to build their projects, right? So the question is, will they choose Manta for its universal circuits, essentially? And if their universal circuits, this is when you click it, this is what pops up. I'll just get rid of. I already done that for you. But I find, see, not Rust guys, so that's weird. But they provide ZK as a service, allowing Solidity developers to enable ZK features in their applications with just a few lines of code. This includes capabilities like compliant private payments for DeFi identity verification for Web3 social and privacy, preserving shuffling for on chain gaming. So, what they're saying is you can basically implement zero knowledge proofs with a few snippets of code using Manta to build an EVM native application for gaming, which is interesting. I'm really big into gaming. Zero knowledge definitely has a place in gaming. Gaming has so much data that could easily be compressed and processed far more effectively. So that's super interesting to me. Um, yeah, I guess if you want to think about it this way, universal circuits, ZK as a service, those are good. Again, like keywords, like they're really crushing it. In terms of the narrative plays here, I'm genuinely just curious if anyone out there can tell me why they claim they're an EVM, they claim that they work with hand in hand with Solidity developers, and why their GitHub, which is the source of truth, is written in Rust, which is a Solana language. It's just interesting to me. Hopefully someone out there can answer that. And then if we go to their price data, nothing too sexy. This is a very new project. September 13th is when they released the test net. So somewhere in January, it looks like there was production. So they've only been out since the 18th production mainnet, and they've had some ups and downs. But in general, there's not a lot of data, guys. So there's not much I can say here if I'm being honest. Um, yeah. So the conclusion to you, Mr. Encanto, is it's not going to be a part of my portfolio. Um, I also only did about an hour of research. Okay. I have a lot of stuff going on at the fund and everything else that I do, but the things I like about it is they are attacking gaming and zero knowledge being used as infra, which is just awesome. I'm a big infrastructure investor, and I like the idea of making zero knowledge more accessible to perhaps a junior developer that is very comfortable in Solidity. So they claim. But the thing that really concerns me is going into their GitHub and seeing that it is a Rust application, and the majority of their repositories are Rust, and it's just curious to me. I don't know why it would be that way. I trust the team that I did see. I didn't show that there. I'm trying to keep these videos short. I get a lot of feedback that I don't go deep enough in my analysis. But would you guys really just sit here for 30 minutes and listen to me pontificate about, you know, the asset I'm trying to underwrite for you guys? I doubt it. But, let me know. Most of the feedback has been keep them under 10 minutes. This is definitely going to be longer than that. I'm really working on it to bring you concise information without me babbling. I'm not a very concise person, so it is a challenge for me, but I'm working on it for you guys, I promise. Encanto, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed it. Um, yeah, those are my thoughts. So thank you guys so much for the suggestions. I will keep doing this. This was fun for me. I enjoyed reading about it, and hopefully you guys learned of something of value. And until next time, okay? You guys take care of one another. I'll see you.